stand. Machine with a need to bleed you when the light goes green. Best believe I'm in the zone to be. From a yin to my yang to my yang to Z. Put a grin on my chin when you come to me. Cause I'll win, I'm a one of a kind, and I'll bring death to the place you're about to be. Another river of blood running under my feet. Forged in a fire lit long ago. Stand next to me, you'll never stand alone. I'm last to leave, but the first to go. Lord, make me dead before you come and I'll bring death. Feel the fear of the devil inside of the enemy faces in my sight. Aim with a hand, shoot with a mind, kill with a heart like Arctic ice.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a warrior, this is my song.
I am a warrior.
Politics, and selfless service. We're here to give you an honest opinion, a different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on the show chat room, via our Facebook page, and on Twitter. We would like to thank those who make this show possible and allow us to bring it to you. Our show sponsors: Warrior Media Solutions, BlueHammer.com, Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation, Graybeard Publishing, and of course, Sheepdog Response. We would also like to recognize some of our favorite nonprofit charities who are doing great things for those who have served this country of ours. Veterans Outdoors, Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation, PinupsForVets.com, and the Lauren F. Bruner USS Arizona Memorial Foundation. To learn more about these nonprofits and how you can donate to their awesome causes, visit our website at www.stewandthenunn.com. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Stew and the Nunn, except it's tonight it's Stew and the Rob. So, we got producer Rob, the most famous unpaid producer that ever joining me tonight in studio, still representing the Southern Studio in the great state of Tejas. Hey, Rob, or actually, no, not in the great state, near the great state of Tejas.
Near the great state.
That's right, one state over.
I am in Southwest Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Where it is an awesome 76 degrees today.
Got us. It's 44 here right now.
Wow. 44 still. April.
It was 81 on Sunday. I was mowing my grass, my front yard for the first time. First warm day. And then woke up Wednesday morning and it was snow on the ground. Because that's what a messed up place New York is.
We've already had to mow the fields. I live on 10 acres. That's where this picture is part of my property. I took this picture. You can see the sun coming across and trying to do the trees. But yeah, we've already had to mow the fields, the big empty space in front because the grass was getting too high. And so yeah, we've had just great weather here lately. Absolutely great.
You got an awesome looking property there. You've done drone footage of it and got a gorgeous piece of property. Some space out there. Nobody's driving up your driveway without you knowing about it, kind of thing. Right?
Absolutely. My driveway is just a little under a quarter of a mile long. So you want to come see me, you must really want to come see me.
That's right. And you're going to know they're coming.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So
just remember, when you turn in his driveway, you are within range. That's all we got to say there.
You're within range with probably a little further than that.
Yeah. But You're just in better range. But yeah, so awesome. Great to have you on tonight. Toby is still getting some things wrapped up down in Mexico. Is tough dude, works harder than anyone else I know trying to run 2 businesses in 2 countries. And,
As much time as he spends in the sun, he's not getting a tan.
No,
I don't know what it is.
He protects
he needs to
himself.
tan up a bit.
He protects himself with that great Kermode fishing gear from Kermode Outdoor Development Group. And while he's down there running red rum fishing, I just realized I have logo changes. I got this on this scene. I've done different. Yeah, so he's down there running red rum fishing down in Cabo. If you go down to Cabo or Plan, make sure you go check them out. And they also sell the Kermode Outdoor Group fishing line down there of hats and shirts and all kind of stuff. So he does. You're right. He stays out of the sun. He protects himself from that skin cancer.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're a fair-skinned Canadian.
I'm pretty fair skinned myself, even though I grew up on the coast. As a kid, I was always out on the beach, out fishing, out doing something, but that red-headed gene just took over, and now I just burn.
Yes. Yep. I spent a lot of time in the sun, lived in Panama, Arizona, all over the place. Still the first couple times back into the sun. Hey, kind of giving you a shout out. Didn't mean it to happen, but I am wearing my Delta Dirt hat tonight from Delta Dirt Distillery over in Helen, Arkansas. One of only 4 makers of sweet potato vodka. All
Nice.
farm to table from the family farm. If you ever get over in Cotton, actually, it's being sold now, I think, all over the state of Arkansas. So if you see it, you got to get some Delta Dirt vodka, sweet potato vodka. It is awesome. Great people over there that created that and run that. Got a couple of their hats. Every time I go down, I represent Arkansas.
There you go. Helena's not too far from me. Of course, nothing's really that far in Arkansas.
No,
I mean,
it's
not that big of a state.
No, yeah, you can shoot over from you to the other side, be even to Memphis if you. Yeah, I went to high school there, so run around that state a minute or two. Anyways, but never did anything I wasn't supposed to, Mom, in case you're listening. Yeah, so we got a lot of things to cover tonight. It is, you and I were chatting earlier about topics and guests and not having any. We've been so swamped. But wanted to kind of hit on a number of things tonight. We're gonna get a lot of current events and things going on. We'll start with the administration. We always do, just to make sure everyone's safe. One, this show has still lasted longer than CNN Plus, in case anyone was wondering. Last week, still lasting longer. We're not kleptocratic kleptocracies. We're not. It's not a kleptocracy show. That's what we're not. So, which is good because if the president ever wants to talk about us, we don't want him to get mixed up and think that we're kleptocratic something. I gotta ask you, Rob. I'm not smarter than average bear. Do you know what word he was trying to say?
Kleptocracy, which is basically a government run by thieves.
Oh, like a kleptomaniac.
People that steal. Yeah, people that steal and exploit power. And it's funny how Democrats always tend to point the finger, but forget that when you point the finger, there's 3 more pointing right back at you. And currently, I think the Bidens are running neck and neck with the most corrupt family with the Clintons. I think they're right up in there. If they haven't passed them, they definitely have more drug addicts than the Clintons, with just one member of the family.
Well, they haven't had more deaths surrounding their family than the Clintons. Sure. The Clintons have more deaths happen, especially lots of weird suicides. So that's interesting. So okay, it is a real word. I didn't know. I didn't get a chance to Google it. It makes sense. It comes to the word klepto being the base word to kleptomaniac. Yeah, and if it's about a government that is corrupt and stealing and all that stuff, is there any government that isn't a kleptocracy or something? I mean, without a doubt, most governments, most politicians are viewed in all cultures as being corrupt. They're corrupt in the Middle East. They're corrupt in South and Central America. They're, without a doubt, We have a number of politicians that get busted all the time for short selling stocks and selling stocks when they get inside info, or or doing things like selling favors and access, for millions of dollars being put on boards. I mean, he may have not wanted to bring up that word at all. That probably like you said, the Bidens. That should be like kryptonite for a Biden family member.
It should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, taxation is theft. So, I mean, you can start right there with almost any government that taxes the people without, without them wanting, without their permission. So, but as far as the trading goes, you're now starting to see that that's coming into the light. People like Elizabeth Warren and a couple of others in those circles that are now all of a sudden wanting to pass legislation saying, I have a bipartisan bill that can stop all this, after she's already been in office for 10 years and already fleeced, every bit out of it that she can. Right. So it's just amazing that, when they say sunlight is the best disinfectant, and as you start bringing light to all these things, now all of a sudden the opinions of these politicians change. Just like with 230, just like with the border, just like with supporting, the police when their polling numbers start tanking, their opinions change awful quick.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And it is you talked about the taxation a second ago. It's kind of like the meme I got today. I don't know if I shared, but a meme I got, if the government, has enough money to send to foreign countries, then the government is taking too much money from taxpayers, right? There should be just enough money collected to pay the debt and pay the bills and run the government that the Constitution and the parts of the government that the Constitution says is their responsibility. But yeah, I got that one today. But so that's good. So kleptocracy, the bad guys that steal money. We'll keep it simple. None of that's going on here. We don't make any money. Our advertisers, we have advertisers that give us free shirts and stuff. But we're also not a government, so none of that going on here. Someone better start proofreading that guy's speeches and breaking them down to like third grade words, because trying to say honestly, it sounded like someone, especially knowing it's a real word, or he was trying to attempt to say a real word, and he wasn't far off of it. Of like someone, in a speech and debate class, or trying to give a speech or do something, and just say a really big $5 word that doesn't truly fit, that could be said a lot simpler. And the whole purpose is just to impress people, like to show that you have some expanded vocabulary.
Well, you could see, as you do many times in his speeches, he gets a couple of sentences in, and it's almost as if there's a reboot, and the brain reboots, and he shuts down, and he pauses, and he closes his eyes, and then he mumbles something, and then he starts on a different topic.
Yeah, it's like he has.
It's a complete reboot.
Back in the day in the IT world, we'd call that a blue screen of death.
Yes, BSOD.
Yeah, or maybe if you're a Mac person, he has a little spinning beach ball just going around in his head. So and I can see why he's getting confusing and all. I mean, you got some of the worst inflation numbers ever. GDP shrink 1.4%. It's in the negative, I think, and inflation numbers are terrible. Employment numbers are terrible. Polls are just at levels people never thought they'd ever see. Did not think it was possible to get polls that low, with the population that is so easily by media and that. But it continues just to nosedive. We've seen the signs with so many people retiring out of the Democratic base. All the pollsters, all the people on the ultra left are even saying this midterms are going to be completely destructive for them. Let me ask you, Rob. We know there's been cases of false flags, or cases of trying to mislead the American people, going, look, squirrel, something like that. Do you have a fear, without sounding too conspiracy theorist, a fear or concern that as it continues to look worse and worse for the midterms, that someone on the left may be not necessarily against or be somewhat supportive of some kind of other big incident to get everyone's attention and look some other way? You think that's possible?
I always worry when the heads of the different parties, and it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat, but in this case, it is Democrats. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the other leads in that party have been awful quiet. Now they don't have much to run to the podium to talk about, but they've been awful quiet. And when they're that quiet, you have to wonder what's going on behind the scenes, because there's not a camera on the planet that any of them won't run to. I have seen Adam Schiff crawl out from underneath his rock lately and run to the cameras a few times, but for the most part, Democrats are awful quiet, and rightfully so. They want to avoid the disasters that are going on around them, and have to avoid the questions. They can't control the questions that they're getting. Even watching Psaki up there, who's about to exit stage left and run to MSNBC, is now starting to get the questions from non-Fox or non-conservative outlets, and the questions that she simply just refuses or can't answer. So when they're that quiet, you have to wonder what's up. I would anticipate that the Pelosi's and the Schumers, after what's expected in the midterms, the shellacking that they're going to get, that you'll see Pelosi and Schumer and some more higher ups exit stage left.
Oh, I think Pelosi's already planning it. That's why she has come out against, Congress, actually sitting members of Congress involved in stock trades after her son and her husband have made millions off of that. Now, all of a sudden, she, recently came out that she's all, joining the progressives, saying, yes, members of Congress should not be able to trade stock. The only reason she'd be doing that is because she knows she's about to be out, and the majority of Congress will end up being conservatives. And
yeah.
And so why not go ahead and start to put that in place? Look like you really care about corruption, because, you've only got to wait a few months and you won't be a member of Congress, and then you can go back to trading stocks all you want.
Well, it's funny. It's not really reported by many people, but she's buying property in Florida, or she has already purchased property in Florida. So she won't even retire in the state that she's helped destroy. She wants to go retire to a place that DeSantis has built up and fortified. So she can't even retire in her own state. She has a winery. I don't know if she plans on selling that or what's going to go on there.
She's probably just going to drink it all. I'm thinking.
Probably. She probably already has. She probably drank it dry. That's why she has to leave. But yeah, she's buying. She bought a place down in Florida, so that I think that will be her exit. She'll move to Florida and avoid the rest of the questions.
As old as she is, it is called God's waiting room for a reason. The Villages probably has a great spot for her, and you could go there and play bingo on Wednesday nights and shuffleboard on Saturday afternoons. But it is funny. Everyone goes. AOC likes to go to Florida. So it was his name, Pondwater, Stillwater, whatever. The dude likes Stillwell likes messing with Chinese hookers. Goes to Florida. Everyone goes to Florida, but boy, they like to rip DeSantis a new one, and Florida a new one. But you're right. California's nice weather. It's not like California doesn't have nice Florida type weather. San Diego's perfect weather 12 months out of the year. It's great. I mean, there's lots of places to go in California and get just as good weather. You don't have to run to Florida for that. So,
but California has rolling blackouts. They had, especially as you continue to push away from your fossil fuels and continue to push towards that green energy, their grid can't handle it now. They already get power from Texas.
They also have terrible crime and because of their policies and
drought. They're in another couple of year drought right now. They're increasing their water restrictions. Right. So they, in between the nice weather, they go to landslides, fires, and droughts.
Yeah.
So there's not really a lot going for California anymore. Right.
So let me ask you this. I want to ask you this question too. This is something that came out today. I don't know how many people know about this story. So with everything going on, we're going to talk about some of this. We got the southern border, Title 42. We have war going on in Ukraine, Russia. We're fighting essentially a proxy war through Ukraine. You've got labor shortages, supply chain issues, economy tanking, inflation going up. And today our government announces they're going after banning menthol cigarettes and cigars. So of all the shit that's happening, just lava falling out of the sky, dogs sleeping with cats, everything in the world going wrong. and so much. Oh, I didn't even talk about COVID and pandemic and everything else going, and now apparently some version of hepatitis that's killing kids, and all this stuff that's happening. Our administration decides they're going to focus on banning menthol cigarettes and cigars, and look, there's certain sectors of the population that is a very popular thing with. And those sectors of the population are typically folks that the Democrats try to count on for voting and all that stuff. I don't think that was one. It's probably not the right time. There's so much more of the stuff they could focus their time and energy on. But two, probably not a good idea politically. It would seem to go after something that is enjoyed by distinct sections of the population. Your thoughts on this? Did you even know about this?
I don't know. I didn't know anything about the menthol, but I don't know that there's anything at this point that they could do that would be positive. They have no good ideas. They have a horrible track record, and even a good win today would simply be glossed over by the people because the bad losses are just horrendous. I mean, you can go. It's still recent in most people's minds the disaster pulling out of Afghanistan. And if Republicans take over at midterms, that's going to come back around. The disastrous border, the more deaths from COVID in his first year after he promised to get rid of it, the continued to sue to extend the mask mandates on planes while trying to drop Title 42 at the border. Either the pandemic is continuing or the pandemic is over. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
And so they don't know which way is left and which way is right. So they have no good ideas. And I think they had an agenda and they're just like, well, we lost on that one. We lost on that one. What's next on the list?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. We talked about it last week, right? Title 42, for those that don't know it, maybe haven't heard, done the research, is essentially a government order that says, we're not going to let people into the country. We're going to turn you around if we think there's a chance of you bringing in part COVID or being part of the pandemic. And it's a way for us to turn people away because we have this terrible pandemic and we can't bring you in. So to not only, granted, there's, right now, for the most part, you can fly without mask on, but only because a judge out of Florida ruled that CDC overstepped their bounds. Still, the DOJ came back and has appealed and all that kind of stuff, which means the administration still supports the idea of wearing masks on public transportation. Like you said, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth and have that, and at the same time, be sitting there and say, "No, what pandemic? No, it's totally cool. Everybody can come into the country now." It's like,
well, I watched Buttigieg. I watched an interview with him. I believe it was yesterday, and he was talking about why they're appealing on the mask mandate, and I was surprised with what came out of his mouth. He blatantly said this is to ensure that people understand the authority that the CDC has, and so they're just the only reason they're appealing this is to exhort their power over the people.
So
what I gathered from that.
The head of the CDC, who prior 2 years ago was a administrator of a president of a small unknown college in Massachusetts, who's now the head of the CDC, apparently has an authority not granted by the Constitution of the United States, not required by the Constitution of the United States, and with an agency, well, one didn't even exist back then, but an agency that is creating I can't say law because laws can only be created by Congress, as per the Constitution of the United States, but creating mandates and a supposedly enforceable policy. Rand Paul has said it great. Every time the airline would tell you got to wear a mask, it's the law. They're lying to you. It's not the law. Only Congress can make laws. So you're saying what Pete Buttigieg said is that this is only to show and enforce or strengthen the enforcement and the authority of the CDC and administration.
Absolutely, that's what he said in the interview, and it was on Fox. It was on a Fox interview. I was surprised he went on there, but
that's a cabinet head. I mean, granted, he was a mayor. No, he wasn't. He's not. There's nothing qualified him to be a cabinet head member. But I mean, you're talking about somebody that supposedly is educated and smart in ways. I remember when Obama got in office and he surrounded himself with some of the folks that he did. And I was like, wow, these are all B players. I mean, he didn't even get, the quality of some of the folks that Clinton was smart enough to surround himself with, to be lieutenants. And Obama really picked a lot of B-level players. I mean, the folks that, yes, the Biden administration has some people from the Obama administration, but for the most part, it was like their second or third string backups. I mean, you're talking people that are 110%, for the most part, not qualified, or were picked only, unlike what Martin Luther King said not to do, were picked only because of the color of their skin, or maybe what is the gender between their legs, not necessarily when they pick, but the gender between their legs. They were. I mean, look, the president has said he was picking a black female for vice president. He was picking a black female for the Supreme Court. I mean, not picking the most qualified, not picking the one that had the right credentials. We had Condoleezza Rice in a very senior position. She was picked because she's uber smart in foreign policy, speaks languages, understands foreign policy and everything like that. You've had a lot of people that have been picked there that happen to be minorities of one flavor or not, but they weren't picked because of that.
Right.
Or if they were, it doesn't matter because they still had the credentials to back it up, where you didn't look at it and go, oh, that person was only picked because it's a chick or because it's whatever.
Right.
But it is
Colin Powell,
right.
Condoleezza Rice. I mean, even Shinseki,
Nikki Haley. I mean, so many that have held phenomenal positions, and even under the Clinton administration, right? That have held great positions, and the Bush's administration. But to sit there and come out and say I'm picking someone that meets these characteristics is as dumb and just idiotic as saying, as broadcasting what your military tactical plans are going to be. We're going to leave on this date. We're going to leave at this time. You just got to wait us out, right? I mean, you're being just as, but then again, Joe Biden was in office for 47 years. He was always known as someone that made every foreign policy decision he made was always the wrong one, from wanting to break Iraq up into 3 different countries to being the only member of President Obama's inner circle that voted and pushed against the Osama bin Laden raid. I mean, everyone else for it except for him. The guy's been wrong all the time. I don't know why they thought it'd be any different, but anyways.
Well, I mean, if you look at both of those administrations, I mean, the Obama administration and now Biden's administration, I mean, if you were to summarize Obama's administration, the only real positive out of that was Obamacare, and it was a disaster. From outsourcing the website build and the cost to the rollout to people not being able to sign up, the promises broken. Now, granted, the Republicans had their hand in it and simply couldn't repeal it and didn't have a solution to replace it. But both of those administrations were full of just failure right out of the gate. So, yeah. I mean, that leads right into the poor decisions they made with who they chose and who they surrounded themselves with. Now, I would say that the biggest 2 failures Trump had was he didn't fire enough people when he got into office, and he continued to hire people from within the DC Beltway. That is the epitome of the swamp.
I mean, he did have more generals he had hired than anything else, which was good for certain reasons and certain aspects. But the one thing at least he did when he did fire him, he fired him. He didn't just kick him to another department or kick him to the curb. Just kick the problem down the road. He fired him, right? And of course, the media went after him. It was like, oh, so and so. H.R. McMaster was only there so long. I said, well, because the guy didn't support the cause, he's out. Trump had that. He was not, didn't have a problem holding people accountable. He knew what he wanted out of his leaders, and they didn't perform. He didn't give them a lot of second chances. He was hiring professionals with a lot of experience, and he knew they had a lot more experience than him. He expected them to, behave and make decisions and so on and so forth. But you look at people like George H.W. Bush, a lot of people ridiculed as not being the smartest person, this and that, not having a lot of foreign experience, so on and so forth. But he surrounded himself with experienced diplomats and leaders, right, from Rumsfeld to Cheney to Colin Powell to I mean, he
Rice,
Condoleezza Rice. He was, we all know in the military, right? Great leader surrounds themselves with, great commanders surrounds themselves with even better lieutenants. Right, you get the best NCOs around you. You get the best, junior, next level leaders around you, and that can make decisions that know what your intent is. Don't have to look for you for everything that, and can, if they have to on the fly, they can make a decision that's going to be the right one. That's what everyone has done. Obama didn't do a great of it. Biden is doing even a worse job. I mean,
Well, at
he's
least when you surround yourself by talent, you can delegate, right?
right.
And then you can have some confidence that that delegation is going to be met with good decisions. Biden can't even delegate to anybody because nobody underneath him is acceptable to make those types of decisions. You can't give it to his VP. She's almost not. I mean, I don't even know what she does. She doesn't do anything.
She
She
gets
can't. Whatever Biden is afflicted with in speech, Harris is afflicted with now too, because I don't know if you've watched any of her speeches, but it's a word salad. It
yeah.
is, you have to listen, you look at it and you're like, what is she talking about?
Well, Biden makes up words. She just says a whole bunch of words and none of them even go together. It's like
Right.
a 3-year-old learning vocabulary really for the first time and not really know what they're talking about. Yeah. And now she has COVID again, but it's okay. It's not like we're missing her. It's not like she's made an impact on anything. I mean, she flies all the way over to France to, all this kind of stuff and all this hoopla, and she doesn't make an announcement. She doesn't say anything. She just laughs and looks at the
Yeah.
Ukrainian leader. Yeah. So they it is the midterms can't get here soon enough.
No.
The Congress and the Congression, the committee heads need to change over. Investigations need to be launched. And Congress, hopefully, just hope and pray that there's a veto-proof majority in both houses, so that the president was already inept and impotent enough. Even more so, if they can get a veto-proof majority and start passing laws and actions and repealing some things, because those executive orders they cannot stand against the law, then they can start. They can get it in place. Doesn't matter if he vetoes it or not. They go right over and they can start making stuff happen for this country. That's what needs to happen. And it can't.
Let's hope we don't have the McConnells of the world rolling over and showing their belly.
No, they need to be out of here too. Yeah, Graham, McConnell's, and those establishments. So let's talk about. We'll switch topics a little bit here. Have you been watching this? Every once in a while we'll get something in this country that a court case of like the OJ trial, or the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, or some big divorce trial, or Kanye and Kardashian, something will get people's attention. But boy, this Heard Depp thing, Johnny Depp, Amber, I didn't know who Amber Heard was until all this happened. Obviously I knew Johnny Depp was. Thank goodness Fox is. I changed channels as I'm working in my home office throughout the day, and I just put on different things. And I try to just I usually have a TV on news, turn the volume off just so I can see if there's an alert or something happening. But I'm usually listening to music or something. But for several days last week, that's all they had on. I guess they just gave everyone a break and gave them a vacation. But it was just this trial. Wasn't a criminal, wasn't a murder trial, wasn't like an OJ, but it was just them giving testimony about some weird, demented, crazy stuff that happens in super rich stars' homes. Have you been tracking any of that? Have you watched any of that at all? Has that?
I really haven't. You catch little snippets on the different social media, whether it's Instagram or something coming across Facebook, but it's the typical squirrel moment for the American people. They can't stay focused long enough on a problem and are on to the next bright and shiny thing. It's sad that we have gotten more footage, we have gotten more information out of Heard and Johnny Depp than we did the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. We still have a trial of a woman who was charged with trafficking children to absolutely nobody, because none of who she trafficked to has been charged. So who was she trafficking it to? We don't know. But they'll shove Johnny Depp and Amanda Heard down your face, down your throat until you want to vomit.
Yeah, poop it all over you. No, that's a good point about Maxwell, right? So is she guilty of something? How can she be made guilty if there's no, you say she shepherded kids and helped enable pedophilia and all this other stuff and rape and different things like that. Well, then, who did it? I mean,
Right.
it's almost like, hey, we're convicting you of running drugs. Well, for who and to who? Well, we never saw you buy them. We never saw you deliver them. We don't have you selling them to anyone, but we're convicting you of selling and being a distributor of drugs. But you didn't get me to sell them to who?
Right. Yeah.
It's a good point. It is.
Well, I mean, she was charged with trafficking, right? Trafficking children. She wasn't charged with abusing children. She wasn't charged with, molestation or something like that. She was charged with trafficking.
Maybe she was just giving them rides to Disney World. I mean,
Well, then Disney has had enough people arrested.
Right. But I mean, she was
for
taking
those very
them
things.
to SeaWorld. She was taking. I mean, how can you say she was trafficking them for that without convicting someone of that? Right. I get what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, they've quit carrying it all the time. I can catch it on the late nights, get the highlights. There's no shortage of memes, and kind of give you the scoop on it. But it's just amazing how, for at least a few days last week, it became like one of the main things on the airwave. It was like I like Pirates of the Caribbean movies. John Depp's always been kind of a weird, kind of like Edward Scissorhands. He's made some phenomenal movies. The dude's very creative, and a great actor. But other than that, me, it's kind of seems like a pretty weird dude. I don't know him anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's I'm not like his movies. I like what he's done in them. I'm not like a super Johnny Depp fan. I don't know him. I don't really care. But it's interesting.
I have seen some people say that this kind of put the nail in the coffin for the Me Too movement, right? So this now shows that it's not, and if you look, the public opinion is leaning towards Depp in this case. From what I've seen,
it does. You're right. It may be one positive thing is just because you're a female or you identify as one or whatever it is does not mean that you're innocent. It looks like some of her own testimony or recordings and things that I've seen. She's tried to play that and say, no one's going to believe you because you're a man, you're a white male. There's no way you'll win. There's no way you'll do this. Look, female, male, whatever in between, you can still be a bad person. There's no one gender or anything that is automatically guilty of something over someone else. Men get raped too. I mean, things happen, right?
Yep.
Yeah, interesting on that. We talked about Disney a second ago, so they have had enough problems. A lot of things going on down at Disney, and I guess all at Disney, but obviously it's starting out of Florida. We were talking about DeSantis in Florida. Interesting case. When you're given these special protections, which I didn't even know about the Reedy Creek Act until all this came about. I've been to Disney more times, and I have a lot of connections to the park through family, in the building of the park and everything else. But never knew that they had this special government or governing right over their property, beholden to them by the state of Florida a long time ago. But maybe they forgot to. Maybe they thought they were above the law. But I mean, I think it goes to show you that if a government entity, state, local, federal, whatever, gives you some kind of special permission, or something like that, or rights or whatever it may be, probably not the one you want to piss off, because at the end of the day, they're going to win if they're government. And even now, Disney's trying to claim, oh, you can't do this until you pay off some 1 point something billion in debt. It's like, that's not how it works. They're the government. They can, if they pass laws, if they follow the constitution of the state or federal or whatever it may be that there is their governing documents, they can do whatever they want. Elections have consequences.
Two things on that. I hate to say the left because I hate titles like that, or I hate labels like that. But it is the left screaming for the rich to be taxed, and for companies like Amazon and companies like Tesla to be taxed more. And then when you pass legislation to take away the special privilege for Disney, they start screaming. So it's one of those cases where you can't have it both ways. It either is or it isn't. You want the taxes to be paid. If you do, then this is the right move forward. The second thing with that is you have to wonder, with Disney being able to control themselves, how much of the park is maybe not up to code, right? How much of the park may be in violation of several laws within the state and federal government because they've been ruling themselves. They may end up paying millions of dollars in fines just to get things up to code and may have to close for a while. Who knows? Not on top of losing this special privilege and then having to pay their fair share, they may have other problems.
Yeah, luckily they weren't the
beside this.
one. They weren't the one running that ride in downtown Orlando that young man fell off of because
Right.
But yeah, what have they done and not done? But it's just it goes to show, and I just love how the Colorado and these other states are like, oh, upend everything and move out here. We'll treat you great. It's like, obviously you have no idea the scope and size of Disney. That they would just up and just
Right.
they can just pack it like they're a freaking carnival that comes through for 1 week out of the summer in your local town and sets up in an empty mall parking lot. Like they're not just going to fold everything up into the trucks and drive away with the carnies.
Well, and what does this help establish going forward for other companies that get political? Right.
Yeah.
So whether it's a social media company or whether it's another company like Amazon or something that gets heavily involved, or Facebook is a good one that spent a lot of money and recently came about that they were in the wrong to do so in the last election. So when companies begin to get political like that, hopefully this stands as a warning to the rest of those companies to, if you want to sell widgets, sell widgets. Stay out of the politics realm of it.
That's just it. Stay out of even the leader of the company, the head of the company can just they can know their own politics and vote their own way. They don't need to they're not going to put it on their people, right? There's employment laws and stuff like that. You're not going to force your people to be one way or the not, and just do your business, right? And there's no because you're based in San Francisco or Austin or Nashville, or it doesn't matter where you're at, or Tupelo, Mississippi, doesn't mean you're going to vote one way or another. Just like if you work for the government, regardless of who the administration is in charge, doesn't mean you support that administration. It's a job, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, are these people, are they not simply paying attention to what's going on? Every time any organization or anything begins to cater to the squeaky minority, it never ends well.
No.
It always comes out that it's bad for them, and there's proven history of that, and this is yet another one of those cases. Disney was silent, and then people started screaming. A very minority group of people started screaming, and so they had to come out and say something because they catered to that and completely ignored the rest of the people and catered to the squeaky wheel.
Yeah, it's an 80-20 rule, right? And it's 20% of the people make 80% of the noise, right? 80% of the people make little to none, and it's those people that being with the bullhorns and this and that when it threatened, like, you don't like it here, go find another job. Like
we used to call them the 1%ers. That there's 1% of the population that no matter what you do, you will never be able to please.
Right.
No matter what you do, you can give them all your money, you can give them all of your attention, you can give them everything for free, and they will find something to complain about.
Well, I think with the cancel culture now, I think it's definitely grown more than 1%. In the fact that people think that's the way they can be a victim, whether they can be a victim for 15 minutes, or they can get their 15 minutes in front of a TV, in front of a camera, or go viral, whatever. It's the woe is me. Somebody did me wrong. I want this, but I'm gonna. It's like a little kid throwing a tantrum. Literally, that's all this is freaking. No different than a 2-year-old in a store throwing a tantrum in the aisle because their mom won't get them a piece of candy at checkout, right? That's all this is.
We've raised a generation of victims, a victim mentality. Everybody is a victim. They play the victim card.
And so rather than saying, you're not giving me a piece of candy, they're saying, oh, that person offended me. Oh, that person didn't call me one of the 37 different types of gay that I am. Because let's be honest, there's 2 genders. Genders are not determined by what's in your head. Gender is what you physiologically made up of. You are either a male or a female. There's only 2 genders. There's 30-something different types of gay. That's really all it is, right? There's it. That's why it's men and women. That's why all multi-gender bathrooms are men and women pictures up there. That's it. There's nothing in between. You're the one.
Shirts come in two categories, male or female.
Right. You're the one. Even those coexist ones, even those rainbow ones, are still male or female. All right. There's not one is male, female, fluid, binary, whatever the other ones are. Right. So it's this whole you offended me. I feel like I'm one of these type of people. Okay, good for you. I don't really care. Right? That's not there's nothing to do with you, you know. Offend you.
Well,
It's
if you want, people can do whatever they want, right? You know, I'm all for be who you want to be, do what you want to do, but when you start dragging me into your world and forcing me to modify to accommodate you, now you've affected me. And so now I no longer have to play with, by your rules. I didn't want to be there on that playground to begin with, and you drugged me into that playground, and I don't want to be there. So, that's if you want to pretend you're whatever gender, go pretend whatever gender you think you are. Fine with that. Just don't expect me to cater to anything like that.
right. You know, I got a secret here, Rob. I don't know if people have thought about that. I'm gonna let you in on this. I know a 100% way not to get offended. Guaranteed, 100% guaranteed way, or double your money back not to get offended by anything. You know what it is?
What's that?
Don't give a shit what other people think. That's
Right.
it. That's all you got to
Absolutely.
do. Like, I don't care. Like, say something. Oh, you offended me. Okay, I don't care. I don't care that you think I offended you. Not my problem, right? Bye. You know, that's how it. Which is why what spins great is the next one of this whole Twitter thing with Elon Musk buying. Elon Musk, the guy who everyone loved because he made Tesla, and every who's who of Hollywood and everything else who think that having the Tesla is the greatest status symbol, and he's doing so much for our planet, is now like he's one step away from Donald Trump because he bought Twitter and wants to make it an open, free area to communicate town hall. Which, by the way, Twitter used to be, which is why Twitter is such a shithole that it is. Before they started monitoring and curtailing what people said who they didn't agree with what they said, and it wasn't that people were saying pretty much it wasn't like people were saying grotesquely socially unacceptable things like being maybe NAMBLA or supporting pedophilia or bestiality. It wasn't like they were doing that, which I think some of that's still allowed on there. It was you said something that offended someone, or they were thought from you different politically. When prior to that, Twitter was just this place where everyone attacked everyone and said whatever they wanted and said mean things and nice things, and some people got their news, whatever it was. So now that Elon Musk, a private citizen who happens to be an Uber billionaire, did what everything else is that drives capitalism. He wanted a company. Granted, it probably came from them saying if you don't, liberals saying if you don't like Twitter, go create your own. He did better. He just bought it. He may have wasted $44 billion. Maybe it won't turn a profit and he'll sell it or he'll shut it down. Who knows? But that's his own money. That's his problem. And it's amazing how the guy that went from the darling of the left because he makes these cool Teslas and puts spaceships up and does all this stuff is now one of the most hated guys, where people are having physical reaction by crying and having everything else happen, and having to take rest times and days off because he bought Twitter. Like he's going to turn it into a Nazi propaganda machine, or it's going to become the social media pedophiles or something. I mean, he's making it an open platform.
We've lost the ability for discourse. We've completely lost that as a society. So we can't when two opposing sides refuse to listen to the other side and have your own opinions challenged, then you can't stand that scrutiny over your own opinions, then your opinions are, pardon my language, are shit. I mean, if it can't stand up to scrutiny, then your opinion is shit. And that's what we've lost. And I say I use that in a very general sense. You can ban, you can shadow ban, you can downvote or whatever. Majority of conservatives all day long, and they will continue to use the platform. When you do the same thing to to a liberal or a leftist, they get mad, want to take their ball and go home. They can't stand the differing opinions. Their opinion, and it's because they think themselves of a moral high ground, but they're not. If your morality can't even stand scrutiny, then you have no hill to die on. You have nothing. So, until you can have that discourse, um, you're, we're not going to have a good platform. If all the liberals left, then you're going to end up with a bubble of nothing but right-leaning conservatives.
Yeah, and neither side being the only side is good for anyone.
No,
right? The checks and balances, regardless if it's left and right, left, center, independent and right, whatever, that needs to be there, right? Because that's otherwise everyone goes one way is communism, and it's right no matter where it's originated. But want to do it on Snapchat or Instagram or Twitter or your own blog or Facebook, short of promoting harm or promoting something that could be harmful to someone, and not harmful to their feelings, but like harmful because you promote corrupt or criminal acts, that kind of stuff. Short of that, it's a place to talk. You can tune out, just like you can turn off the channel, like you can not follow somebody. You have all these options. So it's crazy that look, it's his $44 billion, his and whatever loan. He's gonna buy it. I don't know. I know they're letting people back on now, like Tucker Carlson, and people's numbers are going up, like Tyrus and Kilmeade, and they're all talking about their numbers have went through the roof because all of a sudden things are changing. They're turning down the dials. I mean, Twitter, I don't think is going to be here to stay regardless either way. I mean, there's Truth Social, there's Parler, there's all these other ones that have popped up over the years because Twitter was just the way it was. And, they're all going to compete. Maybe one will come out the winner at the end, but otherwise something else will pop up. There used to be,
in the near term, in near term, Twitter is still the town square. I mean,
right.
if you turn into any news station, whether it's Fox or CNN, they're always quoting or referring to what's going on Twitter. What is trending on Twitter. It's still the popular one.
That's my immediate news source. When something happens, when I hear sirens, when I hear about something happening in a city or something like that, like breaking news, I used to go to Google and Google. No, I go to Twitter and search for what maybe the city name or something, right? A mass shooting or something. I go to Twitter and you have hundreds, if not thousands, of instant backpack journals, right? They're putting up pictures, video, retweeting what the local news media is saying because maybe it's not in your area. I'll still go there in a heartbeat to look up something if something is breaking news before it's that much. It's light speed compared to what the mainstream media a production spun up to cover a story.
Well, it was one of the ways Trump was so successful and so liked because he was bypassing media, bypassing the press secretary, and you were getting the word directly from his mouth to the people. And a lot of people liked that. Imagine if Biden was actually the one writing his own tweets. It would look like a cat run across your keyboard.
Right.
But but that was one of the reasons why Trump was so successful, and one of the reasons why they wanted him off the platform was because they couldn't silence him, couldn't counter what he was saying, couldn't challenge what he was saying, because for the most part it was right.
Well, he got a lot of critique because of his tweets and because he was using social media so much. But when you have essentially the established right, the established left, and the entire media against you with their own narratives and their own stories, it was his one way to say his side of the story. Good, bad, or indifferent, truth or not. It was the only way because no one else was going to give him say it. And again, like you say, that's one, he made Twitter super popular because of it. But it gave him a chance to get it out in his words because nobody would give him the time because everyone is. It'll be interesting to see what happens. He's got True Social, which he got active on. Twitter, everyone immediately when the Elon Musk story came out, people were starting saying, I wonder if Trump's coming back on Twitter, this and this. Says he's not. He's got his own. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, we have these other ones because of the way Twitter acts. We have Parler. IG took off as a chat service. Have True Social. Have some of the other one, Rumble. You've got the one that starts with the
Getter,
Getter.
Getter,
Yeah, I mean,
Getter.
you've got all these other ones because Twitter acted the way they act. Maybe they'll come
Yep.
back on top because they will start allowing anyone to say things and not trying to censor people. I don't know, but it's his money. Whether he wants to shoot cars into space or shoot freaking heroin up his arms or buy 44 billion in Twitter, that's his problem.
I'm wondering if someone's got. Do you remember back in the day when the different chat programs were all the craze? When you had, Microsoft had their own, Yahoo had their own, and then you started getting like ICQ, and so you could merge the different platforms under one umbrella and get to it. And I'm kind of wondering if something like that'll happen in the social media where you can bridge across the different platforms and still, be able to consume and produce content.
Well, you're an IT guy like me, and there's these things called APIs that
Mm-hmm.
those vendors would have to open up to allow, and they did. Some third party product would make something that allows you to bridge across it, write one post, and have tools. But the reality is, look, the bottom line is, none of them will do it unless they think it's going to bring in more people or revenue.
Right.
And otherwise, you're wanting people on your outlet to see ads. That's your revenue model. That's why a lot of them aren't putting that up anymore. I want people coming to the party that can filter that stuff out. Platform.
Well, Musk has said he wants to take Twitter open source.
Yeah, you
So
may see it. I mean,
yeah,
but
we'll see.
yeah. So we talked about a little bit ago. We've talked about a number of topics. I got some more, but I want to give you a chance. I've had a couple that we've been through. I know where there's some that definitely are near and dear to your heart. I want to give you a chance to kind of some of those yourself.
So I was watching a little bit of Mayorkas testimony again today. He's up on Capitol Hill, which I don't know how he's getting anything done because he's always up there being spoken to. But he's one of the most arrogant people I've ever seen interviewed on Capitol Hill. He continues to speak over people. Granted, anybody who's watched any of those testimonies know that the politicians are grandstanding. They're trying to get a soundbite out for themselves. But this guy is just arrogant. And despite facts that anybody can see, the border is wide open. They're handing people cell phones as they come across. They have no idea where almost 500,000 people are. There's reported just over 1.2 million that judges have said they need to be deported. They have no standing to stay here. Deport them. They are scheduled for deporting. And Mayorkas has no plan. He has no plan for this. And I would not doubt that if the Republicans win in the midterms, that he either steps down, which is arrogant as he is, I don't think he will, or he will be removed from office. So
yeah, I've been hearing there's some of those sound bites from the highlights that some are saying just resign. That's not we're gonna impeach you and that kind of stuff. Save the American people, the taxpayers, the dollars and the time and all the embarrassment by doing that. But he's so arrogant. I mean, unless he was told to by the president, do you think he would have an epiphany and just a moment of clarity that would sit there and say, I should just do it. It's the right thing to do? Or do you think he just thinks he's smarter and than all those congressional members?
well, it's probably it could go either way. The problem always comes up. Who are you going to replace him with? And if he's simply enacting Biden's orders or the administration, whoever's pulling the puppet strings, whoever replaces him is not going to be any better. You'll just be in this continuous revolving door of putting somebody in that position and nothing ever gets better.
I mean, he's just carrying out the orders of literally probably Ron Klain, who's chief of staff. He's probably the one running this entire country. He's carrying out the same ones that tell Biden he can't go to Ukraine, the same ones that tell Biden he can't answer questions. Whoever that is giving him his marching
the Easter
orders.
Bunny.
Yeah, the Easter Bunny. It really is Easter Bunny. True that. But I mean,
yeah,
that unless this person's going to be put in a position of authority and they're given the ability to lead the way they want, which doesn't seem like that's what happens, then they're yes men they put in every position. Then they're going to continue to do the same thing. And think about it. That means that person wasn't even good enough to be the first pick.
right?
Mayorkas was the first pick. So you're going nowhere but downhill.
And he's a lifer
In
in
government and federal
politics.
service, yeah.
Yeah.
Is
So I mean, he's probably just simply a yes man, but he is awful arrogant. God, is he arrogant? And what ties directly into that is the rising crime. Now, and I'm not saying that everybody comes across the border is a criminal. That's people misconstrue that far too often. But when you have several 100,000 people that you don't know where they are, you have no idea who they are or what their backgrounds are. We've already captured how many, what is the term they use where they're not from Central or South America or Mexico, where they're from a different country. They've caught, I think, 14 different terrorists coming across um, the border. Mayorkas couldn't even answer today if those individuals are still in the country.
yeah.
I mean, that would seem like some important information that you should come to the Hill with. This is the status. We had 14 people that are known terrorists that have come across the southern border, and here's their status. They will be leaving X date, or they're scheduled to leave X date. That would be the type of information that I would have. But crime continues to rise across the country. Almost every city in the top 5, 10, whatever you want to, whatever numbers you want to look at that are Democrat run are just rising in crime. And it shows just how important your local elections are and how they feed out. We always look at the national elections and look at the presidency and stuff like that, but we really, as conservatives and stuff like that, really need to focus on local elections. Look at your school boards, look at your mayors, look at your governors, look at the House and Senates for your state. And they're really important races that the people need to focus on.
No, you're right. It does start local. We've talked about that even at the last election when we saw things come down to governors and local elected officials making the election laws. Obviously, that's put on the states. But even some of the things that weren't laws that were changed at the last second, whether done by judges or whatever, that it really does start locally. That all that feeds up or could have an impact on the national one. But that at the end of the day, when you think about, and I've tried to tell people this before, when you think about you live your everyday life from the taxes that you're paying on your fuel to stores to how your house is assessed to what taxes you're paying for school taxes and what your school board's spending money on, all that stuff, you get impacted and deal a lot more with daily decisions and things from all your local election results than anything the national. There really, if you think about it, there's not much nationally that the president decides normally that impacts you at the local level. Yes, if he opens up the border and it causes some things happens and crime comes in, yes. But you know what? It's your local governor or mayor or county or whatever that's going to have things like bail reform, like we do in New York. It's a governor that pushed that, right? Or it's a DA in LA County that is not enforcing laws or whatever, or not prosecuting people. Those are local. That will impact you. But things at the national level, 300 million going to Ukraine, yeah, it's going to go into your taxes, which just keeps accumulating anyways. But in reality, you're not really being impacted by it.
Right.
It's the local, and people lose track of that because they get numb to it. I think they get so used to it. But if they took the time and sat down and thought about every little thing they do and pay for and everything statement that comes in the mail, and they realize it's locally elected people that are making these decisions, they probably would think about different than just what the 6 and 10 o'clock news tells them to focus on.
Right. And know something about the candidates. I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's going on in Tennessee. I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name. It's Robbie something. Conservative moved there out of California, and the Republicans got him kicked off the ballot, claiming that he was not a true Republican. He's got very conservative values. Was challenging the incumbent, and the Republican Party fought back against him and got him kicked off of the ballot, claiming that he wasn't a Republican.
Right.
Even though he had been there, they first tried to kick him off the ballot, saying he hadn't been there long enough. Uh, he'd been there 4 years in Tennessee. Then they said, "Oh, well, you don't even live in the area represented." Yes, he proved that he does. And then finally, they found a way, going through the RNC, to get him kicked off the ballot, saying he wasn't a Republican. So pay attention to, don't just choose a side and believe the side no matter what. Pay attention to the candidates, pay attention to the different parties, and pay attention to their backgrounds.
Yeah, yeah. And I just mentioned how, things at the national level, things may not affect you, but they may depending on where you're at. So you're not in Texas anymore, but you're in Arkansas. You're not far from Texas. You're not far from the border. You're closer to it than I am. I mean, what have you seen with, what's been happening at the border, not just recently, but happening a little, and while you still lived in Texas? I'm assuming you saw some outcome of that, byproduct of that firsthand, by being close in proximity.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously as you go further down to the border, you see just a little bit different, but you know you have crime, you have drugs, you have you know ranchers and farmers who live down on the border, getting their property trashed, getting uh, sometimes unfortunately they find dead people on their property because they didn't survive the trip. You see all of these things. The I remember on a pretty regular basis growing up. Even in the small town I grew up in was an area, because it was such a small town and such a access to the water. There was a lot of drugs coming in via boat, and so you had a lot of the federal agencies involved in stopping that. As it so it's we've got to get it under control. The border, we can't continue to have it open the way it is. We have to know who's coming in, and we have to know what's coming in. We simply just cannot have an open border. The United States, like it or not, has a lot of enemies, and there's a lot of people who want to come here. Even with our problems, we do have people that still want to come here, and the people who truly do want to come here do it the right way, and anybody that comes here the wrong way is spitting in their face.
Right. Yeah. No, good point. And I've said that before a number of times over the last several years, that people that have come through the right way, that have followed the very long and drawn out immigration process, have to just hate what is happening more than anything else, because they did it the right way. They paid all the things. They waited. They went to embassies or consulates and filed their paperwork and did all the right stuff. To watch people just come across and be given a free, they've got to be hating this more than anyone. I know I work with a number of people that are in the U.S. on H-1B and other work visas, part of my job, and I've talked to a number of them, and every one of them has supported that same thought. They have expressed to me, from all different countries and backgrounds, that same mentality. I'm busting my butt to do it. This is
Well, it's sad that if we even attempted to put in the same types of restrictions and same types of laws that Mexico has or that Canada has for our own country, then we're called racist. We're called, you know, Islamophobic. We're called all these different names for simply wanting the same laws that our neighboring countries have. Whether it's from requiring an ID to vote in Mexico, or whether it's required to speak one of the two national languages in Canada in order to migrate there. Simple laws like that, if we try to put those in place, we would be called all kinds of things. But, it would just, those countries are allowed to do those things, and nobody, and people, turn the other way. But if we wanted to do that, we'd be called all kinds of names.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, all right. What else you got? Anything else for tonight?
there's been a trend of different types of food plants, and we had one here in Arkansas that are burning down. Now, I haven't dug into it deep enough, but I am seeing a lot of things on social media that there's like 20 to 30 different types of food processing plants within the country that have simply either burned down, been hit by lightning, or flooded, or have some sort of disaster, which that seems like a pretty high number. And if you take into account the transportation issues and the logistic issues we already have, and then now you start things like the one here in Arkansas was they make hot pockets. When those things start burning down, if you can't even get natural food, I mean, the people are going to, go get a hot pocket or something. They're going to get junk food off the shelf. But now, if junk food's not even on the shelf, with inflation and everything else, we're going to start seeing some issues.
Do you think there's a trend? Do you think something's being sabotaged, or is just a bad
That's
time?
that's a lot of the dark rumors out there is that there's sabotage, but I'm still looking into it. But it's something to pay attention to.
I mean, if it's Hot Pockets and it's ramen, and it's like, it sounds to me like they're going after the college kids. I mean,
Right.
if you start tearing down, top ramen plants, Hot Pockets, and Monster Energy drinks, it's probably an attack on our youth, likely. But I had not heard about that. I'd not heard about those dots even being connected.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, start probably start looking into it. Like I said, there
Yeah.
was one here in Arkansas. That's how I started hearing about it. And then like I said, there's a lot of rumble on social media about the number of them that have burned down,
Wow.
which it seems a little high.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
especially with the problems that we already have.
Right. The last thing you pack the supply chain. If 7-Eleven start having Slurpee machines blowing up, then we better call out something, FDA or whatever.
The icy machine at the local store here was just hit by lightning.
Or it's God telling us to eat better.
Yes.
That.
We are getting our garden up and running.
That's it. Yeah, start go true organic, grow it at home, on it yourself. But
yeah.
There. All right. Anything else? We're a little over an hour. Been going for a little bit. I knew this time would fly by, but I want to make sure that we hit all the topics that were important for both of us and our listeners and viewers to listen.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's all I got.
Okay.
Make sure you visit our sponsors, Kermode Outdoors, boomhammer.com, Here for Grunts, Alpha Elite Performance, and the new Alpha Elite Outdoors.
Yes.
Which will be doing a trip with the other sponsor, Red Rum, down in Cabo, coming up. So please visit our sponsors and help support the program.
That's it. Yeah, go check them out and buy their gear and shirts and get down to Cabo. Definitely go to see Toby and get some world champion fishing in. Experience of a lifetime. Don't think you can just show up and get out, because they are booking up. They book up way far out. He's got a heck of operation going. Yeah. Well, hey, Rob, thank you so much for joining me tonight and just covering a number of topics. I know you have been phenomenal in working a number of guests. We've been working some. Actually, believe it or not, any chance today, my wife is working a potential guest for us too. So
awesome.
For our viewers and listeners, if you have someone that you think would be a great guest, it would be great to hear their story here on our show. By all means, reach out to us, hit us up on our Facebook page or anything like that when you like it, if you haven't liked it already, and let us know. We're always looking for those stories, those interesting people, what they have going on to get the word out. We'd like to profile them. That's pretty much why we do this show. It's not for the money, really just bring these stories forward. People are doing.
Yeah, there's contact information on the Facebook page. You can email us at radio@warriormediasolutions.com. You can send DMs to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have space on all those platforms, and we will respond.
Yeah, and Rob is all over that. Jumps on before Toby does, but yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Be sure and tune in next week here on doingthenunn.com. But we'll see what's going on. We're working guest. Hope to have Toby back in the next week or two. Back on here. Great to see you. Till then, Rob, thank you so much, my friend. Good to see you. You don't get to get in front of the camera much. Usually in the chat and everything, which you've been in tonight. Appreciate you coming on, as you are a keeper. You're a third leg in this stool. Time and effort. Definitely appreciate
Absolutely, sir. You have a good evening. Stay warm.
it. That's it. Thank you very much. And we'll have everyone have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BlueHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.